Hey folks, welcome back to another Master video, and tonight we got the Regirock Legendary Arena dropping, so that should be fun. This does look to be a relatively difficult Legendary arena, right? It does at least seem probably harder than the Latios one, at least as of maybe even Tapu Bulu, right? So let's go over the info. So, yeah, absolutely, right? Does have the info on all this, and let's go over it, I guess. So, Legendary Arena, Regirock, again, starting tonight, all that stuff. So, the weakness changes from grass to steel, right? Well, I mean, steel doesn't change into steel, it stays steel. But yeah, it starts out weak to grass. The first gauge is weak to grass, second and third gauge weak to steel. And I think it coincides with both the Gloria and Steven banner as well as the Brendan and Dawn one, right? Which is ones they're pushing right now. So, anyways, let's get into the stuff then, I guess. So there are some interesting stuff over here, right? So individual opponents and allies' defense falls when they are hit by a critical hit. So if the opponent crits you or if you crit them, the defenses will fall, which is actually very, very good for us because Regirock does crit a lot, which is really problematic because critical hits are extremely powerful in this game. But since we also get to do the same back to them, it is pretty beneficial. You know, so as long as they don't have their crit shields up, which they do have a crit shield, spoiler alert. So the opponent is immune to all stat lowering effects that are not listed here or self-applied. So we can lower their defenses and all that stuff when we crit them, but we can't like otherwise lower its stats, right? Which could be problematic. So, anyways, yeah, let's check them out. So missions, these are rewards. Not gonna really go over them. And all right, here's Regirock's move set to start off. It got Stomp, which is the move that 90% of the time you hope and pray that the opponent is going to use, and not anything else, because a lot of the other moves hit very, very hard. Stomp doesn't hit too hard, right? Does have a 30% chance to flinch you though, which is not good. Hammer Arm, that's a 3-gauge move. Rock Slide, another 3-gauge move, right? Also with a really good chance to flinch your whole team. And then got Stone Edge with the +1 chance to crit. Does have 80% accuracy though, although it does raise its accuracy. As Rock Doom, which could slow your team, which is not good. Doesn't hit too hard though, so I guess there's that. Stomping Tantrum. Okay, never mind. Stomping Tantrum is the move that you want the opponent to hit you with, because it really doesn't do anything. Hyper Beam, which will hurt a lot if it hits you. So hopefully you don't get hit by Hyper Beam. Rock Smash, a really good chance of lowering your defenses. On top of like them critting you, lowering the defense, so potentially they could lower your defense by 2 if they like land a crit on this as well. Not good. Iron Defense sharply increases their defense. Drain Punch, they heal with that. They don't heal that much though. It's not a huge deal. And then Earthquake, AoE, 3-gauge move. Also something you don't want to get hit by. So a lot of problematic moves on the opponent's part that could be relatively difficult to deal with. So as for the passives, on the first bar at the start of the battle, it drastically raises its defense. So +3 defense to start. Again, not a huge deal because in this game, if you crit the opponent, right, it goes through the defenses straight up. So as long as you have enough, crit buffers on your team to have like crit and all that stuff. Second bar, at the start of the battle, raises user's accuracy and makes the user's next attack sure crit. This is not good because it's gonna, give a higher % chance for Stone Edge to hit, and also that's a guaranteed crit, and guaranteed crits always hurt a lot. Third bar, at the start of the battle, makes the next attack a sure crit. It's just sure crit, not the biggest deal. It hurts, it's gonna hurt. It very, very likely will take out your tank, right, if you didn't manage it well, right, or you got unlucky. Mainly if you got unlucky, right. Unnamed passive, lower user's defense when below 50% HP. Okay, I guess that's nice. Shrug Off prevents stat reduction caused by other Pokemon's moves and passives. Does not prevent self-inflicted stat reductions, right? So If it uses like hammer arm or whatever, if it uses, I think hammer arm's the only one, right? If it uses hammer arm, it's gonna lower its speed, which is nice, I guess. But you can't lower it otherwise, and I assume you could still lower it if you like crit it, right? So that should be something that still applies. Moving on, Lesson Affliction 2. Every time you status, they increase the resistance to status, all that stuff. We've seen this quite a few times already, right? All this stuff, poison into antitoxin, lesson freeze from 5 to anti-freeze, sleep from 5 to wide awake, paralysis from 5 to this word, lesson burn from 5 to flame proof, lesson interference 3. That's the same as that except for confusion, flinch, and trap. You guys get the point, right? Build up ensures the next attack will be crit after using a sync move. Oh, this is going to be really, really bad. So either you hope that you blast the opponent fast enough to, take them out before they get to sync you, or you get a Vigilance Pokemon. Or, and by the way, Vigilance tanks are going to be very, very good. We'll talk about that, in a bit, right? Or you just make sure that they don't sync, either by flinching them, putting them to sleep, or whatever, right? Moving on, Defense Rush raises users' defense after using a sync move, also not good. Right? Satisfied Snarl 9 lowers the target's special attack when a move targeting the opponent is successful. Not the biggest deal in the world, unless they are using AoE moves, which could potentially affect your striker, right? Which there are some decent strikers that use special moves that are good here, right? So like Brendan. Iron Wall, after using Iron Defense, create a shield that protects the user from critical hits. Do not let the opponent use Iron Defense. If Regirock uses Iron Defense, you're kind of screwed. You're just kind of screwed. Because when the Iron Wall passive is active, we don't know exactly when these passives come into place, because different, bars, Regirock does get different passives. But once it gets Iron Wall, that's going to be very, very hard, because 1, you can't crit them. 2, they got defense buffs, right? So not only can you not crit them, you don't get that 1.5, and you can't go through their defenses, because again, you can't crit them. So not only are you doing less damage because of the multiplier, you're also doing less damage because you can't go through their defenses. And on top of that, since you can't crit them, you can't lower their defenses either. So Iron Wall is very, very problematic. So hopefully they don't use it that often, or hopefully it's only for the third gauge, the third HP gauge or whatever. Precision Rush 1 raises users' accuracy after using a sync move. Also problematic, so it makes that, their Stone Edge has a much higher chance to land, which Stone Edge already has a really high chance to crit. Not good. Not good. Victory Lap. Make the user's next attack sure crit after knocking out another Pokemon. Okay, so once they do knock out one of your Pokemon, you're basically doomed, right? Because they could really quickly just steamroll your whole team. Because most likely the first Pokemon that's going down on your team is your tank. And once your tank goes down, anything that this thing throws at you that crits, I mean, maybe you could survive a crit stomping tantrum, right? But if it crits you on a hammer arm, crits your whole team with an earthquake, and Rock Slide after your first Pokemon goes down, that's going to be problematic, right? And then, once they take out another Pokemon, they got another sure crit, and then your striker very, very likely is not going to survive, another guaranteed crit 3-gauge move, right? Demoralize 4 substantially lowers the attack of all opposing sync pairs after using a sync move. Oh, -4 on your whole team's attack after using sync move. Not good. Not good at all. There are some strikers that could circumvent that, right? So it doesn't make it as big of a deal, but not good. Sudden Sprint 4 to 5 mitigates the reduction of speed. So for Hammer Arm, it's not that bad, right? Sync Cure removes all status conditions from the user after using a sync move. Oh my god. Team Defense Crush 2 has moderate chance of lowering the defense of all opposing sync pairs when an attack is successful. So, Team Defense Crush 2. So, as you can see, Regirock, potentially very, very powerful and very hard, right? Because, again, protection from crits, defense, non-stop defense buffs, right? A lot of crits from Regirock. After it sinks, it does a lot of stuff. It could, decrease your attack. It could, get guaranteed crit, right? A lot of problematic stuff from Regirock, and Regirock does have a lot of hard-hitting moves as well, right? So now let's talk about some sync pairs that we might want to, bring in and try it out, right? So starting with, let's just talk about strikers real quick first, because strikers, there really isn't much to talk about, right? As for strikers / damage dealers, for the first grass gauge, the grass week gauge, you have a good amount of options, right? Especially, you got Sceptile with a new sync grid, which could potentially be, really useful here. There are some things that could be problematic for Sceptile, right? The big one being, after the opponent sinks, it gives you -4 attack, right? Which, even though you are going to be using Leaf Storm for the most part, but -4 attack, that hurts your sync move damage, right? Which Sceptile does have inertia, right? And Sceptile sync move is physical, unfortunately. You could remedy that with like another trainer move, but that, well, wastes a turn for one, and also that's some gauges, 3 gauges, right? However, Sceptile, the upside for Sceptile over here is if you're using Leaf Storm, then you don't have to worry about the opponent, iron defensing and increasing its defenses, because, well, it's special, right? But on the other side, you don't get the advantage of hitting the opponent physically, because if you hit the opponent physically, the opponent, every time you crit, you do decrease their defenses, right? So you get that advantage over there. So give or take, it is early in the battle, so maybe you can't get their defenses down to that much, right? For the grass week gauge, right? So maybe it's not that big of a deal. As for some other great, damage dealers over here, Rosary should be fine, because Rosary is basically Sceptile except without a grid, right? For the most part. Let's see who else. Venusaur, obviously, good damage all around, and it's all, fully special, right? Unlike, well, I guess Razor Leaf's not special, but you're not going to use Razor Leaf when you're doing damage with Venusaur. And obviously very tanky, it heals, all that stuff. Venusaur could be a potentially very, very, very good option for this battle, right? Torterra could maybe output some decent damage. Vileplume maybe as well, right? We'll get back to Torterra. Torterra could be very, very key for this event. So as for some steel types for the second and third gauge, Metagross is the big one, right? Metagross has some really, really great things to circumvent what a lot of Regirock does. Metagross, for one, has Impervious. Its stats can't be lowered, so when Regirock tries to sink you and decrease your attack, it can't, because you have Impervious and your stats can't be lowered, which is very, very good in that case, right? Obviously, Metagross is very, very powerful all around. If you'd have him at 3 out of 5, right? Metagross at 1 out of 5 is atrocious, unfortunately. But, if you do have more than one copy of Metagross, very, very, very powerful. So, Metagross is nice. Aegislash could potentially be good, right? Especially, when the opponent is trying to, like, AoE crit you. You could just King's Shield and then just block it so you don't get, don't get sent to the Shadow Realm by, like, an AoE Earthquake or something. Right, which is nice. Solgaleo could be problematic because it is weak to ground. If it does, again, AoE Earthquake you, guaranteed crit you, right? Even though Solgaleo does have, like, decent defenses, right? Especially if you 20 out 20 it, it's going to take a pretty hard hit, right? So that could be problematic. Zacian could be really, really good, except, again, if the opponent sinks, it does decrease your attack. However, Zacian does have the upside over here that you could keep on getting refreshes for laser sharp focus for free, right? So you could just keep on increasing your attack, even though it's only by 2, but the opponent does not sink as often as you do, right? So let's see what else. Dugtrio, I don't know. I mean, if you have Aegislash, probably just overall better. I guess Dugtrio is faster, right? For certain team costs, maybe you could use Dugtrio. So yeah, that's for the strikers, which again, not extremely interesting, right? Don't have too many options over there. let's talk about some tanks, which is going to be the more important part, because you need a tank that could take constant crits, right? I would, in my opinion, probably the overall best tank for this whole event is probably going to be Torterra. Torterra is extremely good here, right? Torterra not only has X defense, obviously great defensive stats, all that stuff, and unlike Steelix, also has good special defense. Which Steelix has decent special defense, but it's it's not like Torterra level. And the reason why you need special defense is you don't want to get blasted by a hyper beam, right? You don't want to get blasted by a hyper beam from the Regirock. So some special defense is also nice over here. You do have vigilance, which is the big key over here, right? The big key over here is you have vigilance, which is going to help a lot because again, Regirock will be critting a lot, right? So as for some other vigilance units, right, again, another reason why Aegis Slash is great for this, this event. If the opponent tries to go for like, again, AoE, guaranteed crit, earthquake, or whatever, you could tank it. You could just take it. And also King's Shield, all that stuff. Phoebe Dusclops, another option. Thing about Dusclops is Dusclops can't heal, unfortunately. And Dusclops just overall doesn't tank as well as Dawn. Because, well, not only does it not have as good physical defense, right, also doesn't have that X defense all, right, but it does, again, great, offensive buffer. You could maybe run both of them. I'm just not sure. It might be a bit too slow, right, that team. But yeah, Dusclops is also an option, maybe, / Duxnor. But yeah, vigilance is really, really key, right? Jasmine's also still decent for this one, even though, again, we did talk about the special defense not being the best. But Jasmine and Steelix, they do have some really good stuff. Obviously, recuperation on the grid, right? So you could gain some HP back. Like, running Jasmine and Brendan might be a really, really good option because in this team comp, since Brendan, gets his physical attack lowered every time the opponent sinks, you could just use like Jasmine to sink instead every time, so you could get some HP back. Plus it's steel type as well, so you could some damage there. So that could be a potentially good comp. And the really important part with Jasmine is you have Clang, which protects you from crits, right? Again, it's not forever, it's not for the whole battle, right? But hopefully long enough, right? So you don't get absolutely annihilated by the opponent's guaranteed crits, especially if it's any guaranteed crit AoE moves. That could, again, be problematic, right? Endurance, all that stuff. It's just an overall great tank, right? A lot of defense. Again, special defense, slightly suspect. So, as for some other tanks, if you're really trying to like run any other tanks, like there are regular tanks that are pretty fantastic. But I would just suggest maybe roll a lucky skill vigilance on them, right? Like stuff like a Starmie, always fantastic as a tank, right? Maybe not Skyla because it's it's Regirock, has a lot of rock type move, and Skyla is weak to rock, unfortunately. So yeah, again, Misty could be a good option, maybe. Again, if you ever, I guess vigilance, maybe. Brock and Onyx, not bad, right? Also gives you potions, which is really, really good. Vileplume, not terrible, I guess. Defense slightly suspect, but you do boost your defenses, all that stuff, which is nice. So you do have like some options over here, and then obviously your usual flinchers, sleep units, right, to control Regirock so it doesn't sink as fast. It takes longer to sink, right, which gives you more time to take it down before it uses its sink move and gets all those crazy effects accompanied with that. So anyways, that's me with this one. I guess hope you guys enjoy. Let me guys think in the comments down below. Like and enjoy this video, subscribe to the channel for some more Pokemon Masters content, and I'll see you guys tonight when the Legendary Arena drops.